What if I told you that 93% of English learners struggle with one specific thing that immediately reveals their language level? It's not pronunciation, it's not vocabulary, and it's definitely not grammar mistakes. It's something far more subtle, yet incredibly powerful. Imagine walking into your next meeting, conference call, or casual conversation with friends, and instead of stumbling through your thoughts or over-explaining your ideas, you speak with the same natural flow and confidence as a native speaker. Picture yourself expressing complex opinions effortlessly, watching as people lean in to hear what you have to say, nodding in agreement, because your reasoning sounds so logical and persuasive. The secret isn't about knowing more words or perfect grammar. It's about mastering something most English courses never teach. Professional connectors that structure your thoughts like a skilled architect builds a foundation. Have you ever noticed how some people can express an opinion about anything, a movie, a business decision, even a simple restaurant choice, and somehow their words just make sense? Meanwhile, others with equally valid points end up sounding uncertain, scattered, or unconvincing. The difference isn't intelligence or experience. It's the invisible framework that confident speakers use to organize their thoughts. Today, you're going to discover this framework. And by the end of our conversation, you'll have the exact tools that native speakers use unconsciously every single day. Think about your last important conversation in English. Maybe you were sharing your perspective in a team meeting, discussing weekend plans with friends, or explaining why you preferred one option over another. Did your ideas flow smoothly from one point to the next? Or did you find yourself saying, while searching for the right way to connect your thoughts? If you're nodding right now, you're not alone. This challenge affects millions of English learners worldwide. And it's not because their English isn't good enough. It's simply because they're missing the right connectors. Those small but mighty words that native speakers use to create logical, persuasive arguments. Here's what most people don't realize. When you master these connectors, you're not just improving your English, you're developing a superpower that will transform how others perceive your intelligence, professionalism, and leadership potential. Ready to unlock this game-changing skill? Let's dive into the world of professional opinion connectors that will revolutionize the way you communicate in English. The moment you start using these techniques, something magical happens. Your thoughts become clearer, your arguments more persuasive, and your confidence skyrockets. But first, let me share something that might surprise you about how native speakers actually structure their opinions, and why this knowledge will change everything about your English communication. Every powerful opinion in English follows a secret 3-part structure that most native speakers use instinctively, without even thinking about it. This isn't something they learned in school or practiced deliberately. It's simply how the English-speaking mind naturally organizes persuasive communication. When you understand this structure and start applying it consciously, you'll sound more native, more professional, and infinitely more convincing than speakers who have been learning English for decades but never discovered this framework. The first component is crystal clear opinion statement. This isn't about being wishy-washy or starting with phrases like, well, kind of think maybe. Instead, confident speakers begin with direct, unambiguous declarations using power phrases like, I believe, I'm convinced that, or in my view. These aren't just random words. They're confidence signals that immediately tell your listener that what follows deserves attention. Native speakers instinctively gravitate toward these strong openers because they establish authority and credibility from the very first syllable. But here's where most English learners make a critical mistake. They stop there. They state their opinion and then either repeat it in different words, add unnecessary qualifiers, or simply wait for the other person to respond. Confident native speakers know that a bare opinion, no matter how strongly stated, sounds hollow without the second crucial element, the reasoning. This is where professional connectors become absolutely essential, and it's the skill that separates truly persuasive speakers from everyone else. The reasoning phase is where you explain the why behind your perspective, and this is precisely where most English learners feel lost. They have the opinion, they know why they believe it, but they can't articulate that reasoning in a way that flows naturally and sounds convincing. They might say something like, I think this because, well, there are many reasons. For example, And by that point, they've lost their audience's attention and their own confidence. Professional connectors solve this problem instantly by providing smooth, logical bridges between your opinion and your supporting evidence. The third element that completes this persuasive structure is what I call the engagement finisher. This could be a reinforcement of your main point, an invitation for discussion, or a thought-provoking question that keeps the conversation alive. Native speakers intuitively understand that great opinions don't just inform, they inspire further dialogue and deeper thinking. When you master this three-part framework, your opinions transform from simple statements into compelling arguments that people remember and respect. Let me show you how this works in practice with a real-world example. Instead of saying, "I think we should change our meeting schedule," a confident speaker might say, "I believe we should move our weekly meetings to Friday afternoons because it gives everyone time to prepare properly and wrap up loose ends before the weekend." What's your experience been with end-of-week planning sessions? Notice how every element serves a purpose: the clear opinion, the logical reasoning with a professional connector, and the engaging question that invites collaboration. This structure works whether you're discussing weekend plans with friends, presenting ideas in a boardroom, or sharing your thoughts about a movie you just watched. The formality level can adjust, but the underlying architecture remains the same. Once you internalize this pattern and combine it with powerful professional connectors, you'll find yourself expressing opinions with a confidence and clarity that surprises even you. Are you ready to learn the specific connectors that will make this transformation possible? Let's explore the professional tools that will elevate your English communication to an entirely new level. Now we're entering the heart of professional English communication, the connectors that explain why you think what you think. These aren't just vocabulary words to memorize. They're precision tools that allow you to construct logical arguments as elegantly as a master craftsman builds a cathedral. Each connector serves a specific purpose, creates a particular tone, and sends subtle signals about your level of sophistication and professionalism. Let's start with the most fundamental yet versatile connector in English, because. While many learners think of because as basic or elementary, native speakers use it constantly in professional settings because of its clarity and directness. When you say, "I support this proposal because it addresses our main concerns," you're creating an immediate logical connection that's impossible to misunderstand. The beauty of because lies in its transparency. There's no ambiguity, no hidden meaning, just straightforward cause and effect reasoning that builds trust with your audience. But professional speakers don't rely solely on because. They have an entire arsenal of sophisticated alternatives, starting with since. This connector carries a subtle implication that the reason you're giving is obvious or already understood by your audience. When you say, "Since productivity has increased this quarter, I recommend expanding the program," you're not just providing a reason, you're suggesting that any reasonable person would reach the same conclusion. Since creates a sense of shared understanding and logical inevitability that makes your opinion feel more like common sense than personal preference. Moving up the formality ladder, we encounter due to, a connector that immediately elevates your language to professional levels. Due to increased customer demand, we need to hire additional staff. Sounds distinctly more sophisticated than using because in the same sentence. However, there's a crucial grammatical point here that even advanced speakers often miss. Due to must be followed by a noun or noun phrase, never by a complete clause. You can say, "due to the weather" or "due to recent changes," but you cannot say, "due to it was raining." This grammatical precision is what separates truly professional speakers from those who are trying to sound professional but haven't mastered the nuances. The connector because of offers similar meaning to due to, but with a more conversational tone. It's the perfect middle ground between the casual directness of because and the formal sophistication of due to. Because of the positive feedback, we're planning a follow-up workshop, strikes exactly the right professional tone for most business situations. Due to, it also requires a noun or noun phrase to follow, making it grammatically parallel but tonally distinct. Then we have as, a remarkably versatile connector that native speakers use to emphasize consequences and results. As our client base has expanded, we need to reassess our customer service capacity. Creates a sense of natural progression and logical necessity. as suggests that the situation you're describing is the natural, expected result of the circumstances you've identified. It's particularly powerful when you want to present your reasoning as inevitable rather than optional. Here's where it gets interesting. English speakers love variety in their expression. Using the same connector repeatedly, even a perfectly correct one, can make your speech sound mechanical and unnatural. Professional speakers instinctively rotate through these options, choosing different connectors based on the specific tone and emphasis they want to create. One moment they might use because for directness, the next since for shared understanding, then due to for formality. This variety isn't random. It's strategic communication that keeps listeners engaged and demonstrates sophisticated language control. Let's see these connectors in action with some realistic scenarios. Imagine you're explaining why you enjoy working at your current company. I love working here because the collaborative culture encourages innovation and creativity. Now watch how the tone shifts with different connectors. Since the company values work-life balance, I find myself more productive and satisfied than in previous roles. Or, due to the excellent mentorship opportunities, I've been able to develop skills I never thought possible. Each version conveys the same basic message, but the connector choice creates different levels of formality and emphasis. Practice this variety in your own communication, and you'll notice people responding differently to your opinions. They'll perceive you as more thoughtful, more professional, and more persuasive, not because your ideas have changed, but because you're presenting them with the sophisticated structure and connector variety that characterizes confident, native-level communication. Ready to add another layer of professional polish to your opinions? Let's explore how to express purpose and intention with equal sophistication. When you make decisions or take actions, you're not just reacting randomly to circumstances. You have specific goals, intentions, and desired outcomes driving your choices. Professional English speakers understand that explaining the purpose behind their actions is just as important as describing what they did. And they have precise connectors that reveal their strategic thinking in sophisticated, compelling ways. These purpose connectors don't just explain what happened. They demonstrate that you're a thoughtful, intentional person who makes decisions based on clear objectives. The most formal and emphatic purpose connector is in order to, which creates an immediate sense of deliberate planning and strategic thinking. When you say, I enrolled in this advanced training program in order to develop the leadership skills our organization needs, you're not just explaining an action. You're revealing yourself as someone who thinks several steps ahead, someone who connects current efforts to future goals. In order to, signals to your audience that what follows isn't just a happy accident or convenient side effect. It's the primary reason driving your decision. For everyday professional conversations, native speakers often streamline in order to into simply to, maintaining the purpose connection while creating a more natural, conversational flow. I joined the project team to gain experience with international clients. Carries the same logical structure but feels less formal and more accessible. This versatility allows you to adjust your formality level while maintaining the same sophisticated thinking pattern, making you sound professional without being unnecessarily stiff or academic. The third major purpose connector, so that, shifts the emphasis from your intention to the desired result or outcome. When you say, I'm studying English so that I can communicate effectively in global business meetings, you're highlighting the end goal rather than the planning process. So that creates a bridge between your current actions and your future aspirations, helping your audience understand not just what you want to achieve, but how your current efforts will get you there. Here's a subtle but important distinction that even advanced English speakers sometimes miss: the difference between so as a result connector and so that as a purpose connector. Compare these two sentences. I arrived early, so I was able to get a good parking spot, versus I arrived early so that I could get a good parking spot. The first describes what happened as a result. The second explains what I was trying to achieve. The first is about outcomes. The second is about intentions. This distinction might seem small, but it completely changes how your audience perceives your decision-making process. Professional speakers use these purpose connectors strategically to demonstrate their forward-thinking approach and goal-oriented mindset. Instead of sounding reactive or impulsive, They present themselves as people who make calculated decisions based on clear objectives. I chose this software solution in order to streamline our workflow and reduce processing time. Immediately establishes you as someone who thinks systematically about efficiency and improvement, rather than someone who just picks whatever seems easiest at the moment. The beauty of purpose connectors lies in their ability to transform simple actions into evidence of strategic thinking. I attended the conference is just a factual statement. But I attended the conference in order to network with industry leaders and learn about emerging trends. Reveals a thoughtful professional who invests time and energy with specific goals in mind. The action is the same, but the purpose connector completely changes how others perceive your professionalism and strategic awareness. Consider how these connectors can elevate your everyday communication. Instead of saying, "I'm learning English," you might say, "I'm learning English so that I can advance in my international career." Or, "I'm studying English in order to communicate more effectively with our global team." The purpose connector doesn't just explain your action. It demonstrates that you have clear goals and you're working systematically to achieve them. Practice integrating these purpose connectors into your daily conversations, and you'll notice people responding to you differently. They'll see you as more intentional, more strategic, and more professional. Not because you've changed what you're doing, but because you're articulating the thoughtful reasoning behind your actions. When you can clearly explain not just what you do, but why you do it, you establish yourself as someone whose opinions and decisions deserve serious consideration. Ready to take this even further? Let's explore how to present multiple compelling reasons that make your opinions virtually irresistible. The most persuasive communicators understand a fundamental truth about human psychology. Single reason arguments, no matter how compelling, often feel incomplete or one-dimensional. When you present multiple well-structured reasons for your opinion, you create what psychologists call convergent validity, the sense that your conclusion is supported from several different angles, making it much more convincing and harder to dismiss. Professional English speakers have mastered specific connectors that allow them to layer multiple reasons seamlessly, creating arguments that feel comprehensive, thoughtful, and virtually unshakable. The most professional way to introduce additional reasoning is with "another reason is," a phrase that immediately signals systematic thinking and comprehensive analysis. When you say, "I believe remote work benefits our company because it increases productivity," another reason is that it helps us attract top talent from anywhere in the world. You're demonstrating that you haven't just stumbled upon a single supporting point. You've thoroughly considered the issue from multiple perspectives. This connector creates the impression that you could probably continue with even more reasons if necessary, establishing your opinion as well-researched and multifaceted. For more casual professional settings, Plus offers a conversational way to add supporting points while maintaining logical flow. This restaurant is perfect for our client dinner because the food is exceptional. Plus, the atmosphere is conducive to business discussions. Plus, they have private dining options. The repetition of plus creates momentum and enthusiasm while building a cumulative case that feels natural and spontaneous rather than overly rehearsed or academic. The connector also provides neutral, professional addition that works in virtually any context. I support this marketing strategy because it targets our core demographic effectively. Also, it's cost-efficient compared to our previous campaigns. Also is remarkably versatile. It can introduce reasons, examples, benefits, or any additional supporting information without changing the tone or formality level of your communication. For maximum impact, professional speakers often use "on top of that," which not only adds another reason but creates emphasis and sometimes introduces surprising or particularly compelling information. This software will improve our efficiency because it automates routine tasks. On top of that, it integrates seamlessly with our existing systems, and the training time is minimal. The phrase, "on top of that," suggests that what follows might be unexpected good news, or an additional benefit that makes the argument even stronger than initially apparent. Here's the strategic beauty of these multi-reason connectors. They allow you to build arguments progressively, starting with your strongest point and then reinforcing it with additional supporting evidence. This isn't just about providing more information, it's about creating psychological momentum that makes your position increasingly difficult to argue against. Each additional reason doesn't just add content, It adds weight to your overall argument. Consider how this works in a real professional scenario. Imagine you're advocating for a new employee wellness program. I believe we should implement a comprehensive wellness program because employee satisfaction surveys indicate strong interest. Another reason is that similar programs have reduced sick days by 30% in comparable companies. Also, the long-term healthcare cost savings could be significant. On top of that, it would give us a competitive advantage in recruiting, since wellness benefits are increasingly important to top candidates. Notice how this structure takes your audience on a journey from basic employee interest to concrete data to financial benefits to competitive advantage. Each reason approaches the issue from a different angle: employee satisfaction, operational efficiency, cost management, and strategic positioning. By the time you finish, you've created a comprehensive case that's much stronger than any single argument could be. The key to using these connectors effectively is strategic ordering. Professional speakers typically start with their most compelling or universally appealing reason, then add supporting points that address different concerns or perspectives their audience might have. This isn't random addition. It's systematic persuasion that demonstrates sophisticated understanding of how to build consensus and overcome objections. Practice layering your reasons in everyday conversations, and you'll discover something remarkable. People not only find your opinions more convincing, but they also perceive you as more thorough, more thoughtful, and more credible. When you can present multiple well-connected reasons for your perspective, you establish yourself as someone who thinks deeply about issues rather than just reacting based on first impressions or personal preferences. Ready to put all these skills together into a cohesive system that will transform your English communication? Let's create your personalized action plan for implementing these professional connectors in real-world situations. Everything we've explored today, the three-part opinion structure, cause and reason connectors, purpose expressions, and multi-reason layering, comes together to create a communication system that will fundamentally transform how you express yourself in English. But knowledge without application is just interesting information. The real transformation happens when you begin integrating these professional connectors into your daily communication, starting today with specific strategies that ensure rapid improvement and lasting mastery. Your journey to connector mastery begins with conscious practice in low-stakes situations. Start by selecting 2 or 3 connectors that feel most natural to you, perhaps because and in order to. Don't try to master everything at once. Instead, focus on using these chosen connectors deliberately in conversations with friends, family members, or colleagues where the pressure is minimal. Pay attention to how these small changes in your language immediately affect how others respond to your opinions and suggestions. Here's a practical daily challenge that will accelerate your progress. Each morning, identify one opinion you're likely to share that day about a work project, a restaurant choice, weekend plans, or even a movie recommendation. Before you express this opinion, mentally rehearse it using the 3-part structure with appropriate connectors. I think we should try the new Italian restaurant because the reviews emphasize fresh ingredients. Also, it's conveniently located for everyone on our team. What do you think about Italian food for our celebration dinner? As your confidence builds with familiar connectors, gradually introduce more sophisticated options. When you're comfortable with because, experiment with since in situations where the reasoning seems obvious to everyone involved. When also becomes automatic, try on top of that when you want to add emphasis or introduce surprising information. This progressive expansion ensures that you're building genuine fluency rather than just memorizing phrases you'll forget under pressure. Professional situations offer perfect opportunities to practice purpose connectors. Instead of saying, "I attended the training session," consciously reframe it as, "I attended the training session in order to develop skills that will help our team handle complex client requests more effectively." Notice how the purpose connector immediately elevates both the action and your professional image. These small linguistic choices accumulate into significant changes in how colleagues and supervisors perceive your strategic thinking and professional development mindset. Pay special attention to how native speakers around you use these connectors. In meetings, phone calls, presentations, and casual conversations, listen for the patterns we've discussed. Notice how different speakers choose different connectors for similar situations. and observe how these choices affect the tone and impact of their communication. This observational practice will fine-tune your instinct for selecting the most appropriate connector for each specific context. Create opportunities to practice multi-reason arguments in everyday situations. When friends ask for restaurant recommendations, don't just say, "I like that place." Instead, practice layering. "I recommend that restaurant because the food quality is consistently excellent." Another reason is the service is attentive without being intrusive. Plus, they have options for different dietary preferences, so everyone in your group should find something appealing. The most effective practice involves real consequences, situations where your communication skills actually matter. Use important conversations, presentations, and written communications as laboratories for implementing these professional connectors. When the stakes are real, you'll find yourself naturally becoming more conscious of word choice and structure, accelerating your improvement through meaningful application. Track your progress by recording yourself practicing opinion statements and multi-reason arguments. This isn't about perfection. It's about awareness and gradual improvement. Listen for connector variety, structural consistency, and natural flow. Notice which patterns feel most comfortable and which need more practice. This self-monitoring develops the internal awareness that eventually makes professional connector use automatic and natural. Most importantly, remember that mastery is a process, not a destination. Every native English speaker continues learning and refining their communication skills throughout their lives. Your goal isn't to achieve some impossible standard of perfection. It's to steadily improve your ability to express complex thoughts clearly, persuasively, and professionally. Each conversation is an opportunity to practice. Each opinion is a chance to apply these connectors. And each day brings new possibilities for demonstrating your growing communication sophistication. As you implement these strategies, you'll discover something remarkable. These connectors don't just improve your English, they improve your thinking. When you know you have precise tools for expressing cause, reason, purpose, and multiple supporting arguments, you naturally begin thinking more systematically about your own opinions and decisions. The language skills and critical thinking skills develop together, creating a positive feedback loop that enhances both your communication and your analytical capabilities. Your transformation in English communication starts with your very next conversation. Choose one connector, apply the three-part structure, and notice how differently people respond when your opinions are clearly structured and professionally expressed. This is just the beginning of your journey toward confident, persuasive, professional English communication that opens doors and creates opportunities you never imagined possible. The tools are in your hands. The path is clear. Your transformation in professional English communication begins now with your next opinion, your next conversation, your next opportunity to demonstrate the sophisticated thinking and expression that sets true professionals apart from the rest. Are you ready to make this change? Your future confident, persuasive self is waiting for you to take the first step.